Carlos Cintron, my friend and client, right? Love it on both ends because you bring me a lot of energy inside of what we've been working on. And tell us about yourself and your background and what led you to the world of peptides, first of all.
So yeah, my name is Carlos Cintron, and over the last, say, 8 years, I've made some transitions in my career. And I went from being a stylist, a celebrity hairdresser, to shifting into regenerative medicine. You're probably saying, from hairdressing to regenerative medicine, what the hell is going on here? But Jerry, it was a calling. I was always into health and wellness, and been into health and wellness, gosh, over 25 years of my life. From I used to compete in natural bodybuilding, always was into nutrition, and I got certified as a health and wellness coach. And so after my long career in hairdressing, the company sold. I found myself in this pivotal area where I was like, man, what's the next chapter in my life? And I started to really dig deep and pray and meditate and think about, what is my next chapter? This download from the universe came that I am supposed to be in regenerative medicine. I'm supposed to be in health and wellness. And that was the beginning of my journey. And I got involved in regenerative medicine. And you talked about peptides obviously being one of the verticals of the portfolio of things that I actually sell within our company. And so peptides, genetic testing, regenerative medicine. So it all falls in kind of like that anti-aging longevity, which is the perfect space to be in right now.
That was interesting to me. As much as we've talked, I haven't heard it put together that way. So that was cool. When we first met, you actually had a few things on your plate. You had the peptides, you had the skincare line, and later I found out you had reversible, and I don't know what else. There may be other things, but you had a few things on your plate. Tell us a little bit about that.
Jerry, listen, I mean, I think when you start to open up yourself to the possibilities and opportunities of life, things just come to you, right? I mean, I think you start to vibrate at that frequency. And for me, it was, I have a great network of doctors and great friends that are involved in the space, and opportunities just started to come to me. And, obviously I'm passionate about what I do. I love this space. I'm a walking billboard of regenerative medicine. So, I have my own story on how I could share with doctors of, how should I say, these medications, if you will, which are not medications really, but how they work, right? How these products work. But for me, it was more of, I found myself in this space where I wanted to take this whole regenerative medicine and bring it out to the masses. And the way I really wanted to do it was through obviously starting my own company, but also through networking. And, networking for me has been, I mean, that's been like the holy grail, really. It's the relationships that I've built over the last year, 2 years have been incredible. And that has allowed me to expand my business and grow to where it is today.
Cool. So tell me, let's go back a little bit. Where were you at when you first started coaching? What was your focus in getting started coaching, and where was your mindset then?
So let me go back, Jerry, because we've been working with each other almost a year now, right? And
yeah, at least
yeah, exactly. And at the beginning, when I reached out to you and I said I was looking for a coach, my biggest I don't want to say concern, but my biggest challenge was being productive and not being busy, right? So I found myself being busy, but I wasn't being productive. And what does that mean? I would jump on my computer, have my emails, responding to emails, going through my day, and just didn't feel myself financially having the gains based on the amount of work that I was putting in. And after meeting with you, and we discussed really how I can kind of switch that and focus more on productivity rather than being busy, we started to work on a lot of things. And one of them was looking at limiting beliefs, looking at, different ways to really open up my, how should I say, my knowledge of really the space, but also doing it in a way where I was being more effective in closing sales rather than, going through emails and just having, like I said, having a busy day, not being productive. So working with you really has showed me how to close and how to be a little bit more, how should I say, selective in my day, and having a day where it's focused on accomplishing and closing rather than just going through the motions of just being busy. And that has completely shifted my whole way of doing business. Since working with you, and I'll just share this, my income has almost tripled. Okay. And I say that humbly because, I worked on a lot of different things that I felt were holding me back. But really, the most important thing that I felt was just the mindset and the way I was approaching my day to day just kind of completely shifted after working with you and also seeing the results. I think
Wow.
for me, it's all about the results, right? We could say to a blue in the face about, oh, I'm working hard. But if you're not financially seeing the results at the end of the month or, then it's kind of a waste of time. Where now I'm really starting to see my days being very productive. I'm more engaged. I'm more on a mission now than I ever was to really accomplish my goals. And a lot of that I attribute to working with you because now I'm very much dialed in to really what the big
Yeah.
picture is.
Well, yeah, you have been amazing me. That's one thing when you coach, it's an interesting scenario. In fact, I was always told when you coach, you actually coach people for the same things that you need as a coach. It's a very interesting dynamic. And I've got to say, yes, I've actually gotten even more focused because every time I come to a meeting with you, your energy and to watch your growth, I mean, you're a sharp person, always have been. In fact, that's one of the things I wanted to say. One of the things you've made clear to me, I like working with people like you that have a lot of the knowledge of how to do well personally and grow. And because it's easier for me because all I have to do is come in and put a lot of that together, put it in action, right? Because a lot of times we can know what to do, but doing it is a whole different scenario. And it's also interesting to hear from you that we hadn't talked about direct income. I know the first month you doubled. And that was motivating to me. I'm sure it was even more motivating to you. But to hear that you've almost tripled is just amazing. What shifted when you doubled, and what has shifted to take you even beyond that? What is keeping you moving forward like this?
Sure. That's a great question, Jerry, because look, I think at the beginning when me and you kind of assessed where I was, what I was doing on a daily basis and where I wanted to go, I saw the roadblocks. I saw the blocks. And a lot of it had to do with time management as well. Because I found myself just like not really having an agenda to start my day that was all based on what I like to call income producing activities, right? So the income producing activities, that has been like my focus and really leaving all those other emails and all that other stuff that has nothing to do with me. It's more other people's agendas, leaving that towards the end of the day, right? And really not focusing so much on as soon as I wake up, start going after emails, and being more productive. But really that's what has shifted is mainly prioritizing really what's more important for me. And those are working on income producing activities.
This may be a similar question. So how do you make decisions now compared to how you were making decisions before we started coaching?
That's a great question. I mean, look, I think my decision making right now, one is that I plan out the day before, right? So I plan out my day, my day the night before, write down the goals of things that I want to accomplish. I always say I like to start off with like 5 things that I want to accomplish by the end of the day, and I write those down, and then I basically by priority focus on those tasks. Well, before it was more like, okay, I'm going to write all of these things that I need to accomplish. I have like maybe 10 things that I need to do. And by the end of the day, I've only accomplished maybe 5 of them or 6 of them. And then I left myself with 4 or 5 other things that I never got done. And it just kind of put me in a negative state because I always felt like I didn't have a successful day because I forgot to do those other 4 or 5 things. Now just keeping it more targeted, 5 things that I need to accomplish. Those 5 things are prioritized based on my income producing activities and just really approaching those goals with just full on determination. Making sure that I'm following through with all of my goals and making sure that also that my communication with my network and my clients are always about how can I help them grow their business? Because I think that's another issue is I don't say issue, but I think as sales, because we're all in sales, right? I think as sales, we always think about what I need to make, how I need to expand my business. Well, really, what we need to think about is how we can help the doctor, or how we can, in my case, the doctor, how we can help our clients grow their business, and how we can help them win. Because the minute that shifts, that's when I started to really see a lot of my um, income increasing, was really being more of a giver and really helping those clinics and helping those doctors and my clients. And I say clinics and doctors, that's who I work with, expand their business and being more of a giver than a taker.
Carlos, in our leadership course, which I don't think you've even taken that, you're so spot on. It's how to move from me to we.
Yes.
And that you described it perfectly, because when we just so focus on our goals, the doctor says, I got to focus on my goals. You're not focused on mine. So I can't be caring about you. So brilliant, man. That's brilliant. So let me ask you this. Over the last 8+ months, you've made some bold moves. You've stepped out and you're continuing with your book that's coming out. You're stepping into it, investing in yourself. How do I want to ask this? How did you build the courage to do that?
Look, Jerry, obviously working with you has helped me from removing a lot of limiting beliefs, right? A lot of limiting beliefs, a lot of, just the approach that I have right now with my goals is really being determined and really focusing on things that I have control of. And I think before that, I was kind of like one of those guys that would open up an account with a doctor and just focus on how can I close, how can I close, how can I close. Now I focus on how can I add value, and really adding the value has been the complete shift in everything.
Yeah. Wow.
Because once I started to add value, wow. I mean, I started to get more referrals. Doctors started to purchase more. I just started to see the business really take off in another direction.
Wow. That's exactly where every business person, that's where their mind has to be. Super leader, whatever. You've always got to add that. John Maxwell, who was one of the greatest leadership teachers in the world, that's his whole thing, is how can I add value to people?
Yes.
What will do it? So one of my favorite quotes is, the goal is not to get the goal is to become the person that can simply have the goal. One of my mentors, I stole it from him. Okay. But how important is it to you to not just be focused on what you're doing, but being focused on who you're becoming? How has that impacted you?
Jerry, that's everything. And I think many of us struggle with that, right? It's just that identity. And let me kind of give you a little scenario here. As I shared with you, I was a successful celebrity hairdresser, did that all my life, and then shifted into this new role, into this new, I should say, career, if you will, that got into more health and wellness. So what happens is, you start to think about imposter syndrome kicks in, right? What am I doing in this space? I didn't go to medical school. What am I doing in getting involved in health and wellness? All this negative self-talk. And really a lot of it, how I overcame it was, one, to really believe that this is what I love. This was my calling. This was my passion. Two was to really learn and take a deep dive into what I offer and be knowledgeable, because I am dealing with very smart doctors and I need to be knowledgeable about my product offering. So once I started to become more knowledgeable about my product offering, that gave me confidence, right? So then that confidence just really came across in a very positive way, where when a doctor has a chat with me, or I'm in the communicating with a client, they see the authenticity, they see the determination, they see or they hear that the passion that I have about this business and what I can do to help them grow their business. And really that has been the shift. And I think a lot of it, and we talked about this at one point, is a lot of it lives up here in our mind, right? As humans, we have a tendency to really cap ourselves about who we are, what we can't do, where the possibilities are endless. Being on this personal development journey has given me all the tools to really overcome the one thing, and that's just me,
Yeah, yeah,
overcoming my limiting mindset, right? Because everything is possible. You can do anything in your life. Once we start to understand that we are in control, that our thoughts create our reality, that we can accomplish anything that we put our mind to, and you start to see these momentum and you start to see the gains, it shifts everything,
yeah,
but it starts in your own mind. It starts in your own belief in yourself, because once you have that belief, that self-belief, there's nothing that could stop you.
man. I'm getting pumped up just listening to you. That's interesting because this morning I actually, in my prayer time, had to tell God, listen, I'm going to quit setting the limits because some stuff I'm listening to, and in my prayer, people always set the limits too low. So I thought, you know what, God, I'm gonna let you set the limits. I'm just saying this is a starting point for me right here. Okay, this next goal is a starting point, but I'm through with, okay, that's where I want to be. I let you set the limits. So that's interesting you said that. In fact, I want you to just take a moment because, again, you doubled in the first month. Then I remember you were talking about maybe giving up on the skincare line, which puzzled me. I was like, why would you give up on it? It's part of your thing. And what, a few months later, you were launching it. And then I heard about Reversible some time ago, but here now Reversible is launched. Talk a little bit about, and I know you don't have the products out there yet, but it could happen as far as I'm concerned, it can happen any day now, any day. But so tell people about it. Just put claimer, they can't buy it today, but they'll be able to buy it soon.
No, absolutely, Jerry, and thank you for the plug there. So Reversible is our new company that we're about to launch. Myself and a doctor that I've partnered with, and Reversible is basically all about longevity, anti-aging. Our tagline is "Time to Turn Back Time," where we'll be offering genetic testing, peptides, regenerative medicine, nutraceuticals. We'll have a website with an e-commerce. The whole idea is to really help people have a better quality of life. We're in the aging population right now, and there's many individuals out there right now who are suffering. I mean, and I say that from the respect of suffering. As we get older, most people don't have uh, a protocol or a regimen or how to deal with certain things that happen as we age. And this genetic testing that we'll be offering will give you a blueprint to be able to have a protocol to help you with anything that you're dealing with. So that's one thing that we're really excited about. And the other one is our the skincare brand that you were just mentioning. So I do have a skincare brand by the name of Jadalay Regenerative Cosmetique. Jadalay will be part of Reversible in a way, because we're going to be working on not only from the perspective of longevity, but also it's all about wellness and ingestible beauty and wellness, right? So we're talking about not only products that could help you from the internal aspect, but also from the external aspect, which is the beauty. So after many years of really being involved in the beauty aspect of things from a hairdresser, and then being involved in wellness, I combine both. So now it's this beauty and wellness aspect that we're opening up with our company, which I'm super excited about because I feel so comfortable. And I feel like I'm in my element working on both of these.
I don't know if they were made for you or you were made for them, but it's a perfect fit. Okay. What is it? Beauty and wellness. Yes. So when we do this video, I'm going to have Jessa lace in some of the pictures. I want people to see this product. But what role for you does consistency and accountability play in your results?
Oh my goodness. And we talked about this. I mean, consistency and accountability, and that's to myself, really, right? Accountability to myself, because I'm the one that has to hold myself accountable. Obviously, working with you has given me an opportunity to always have you as a resource to hold me accountable. But consistency is something where if you're not seeing your company grow, if you're not seeing things, uh, evolve. And I mean that in the sense of your key performance indicators, right? Your KPIs. Consistency is everything, because that's really what's going to allow you to grow your business. I find myself sometimes saying, wow, what is going on here? I'm just like, I'm growing in one area, and then another area I'm having all these other opportunities that are coming my way. But the one thing that I've learned as the wisdom of getting older and really looking at how life works is that you really have to focus on one thing.
Mm,
Focus on one thing. My thing is beauty and wellness, right?
right.
You know, unfortunately, we have this thing where as humans, we feel like we have to multitask. We could do a million things. Studies have shown that multitasking isn't the most productive thing. Um, so really being consistent, focusing on one thing, and giving it 100%.
Yeah, that's it. I heard Tyler Perry say that one time that if you spread, if you only got one bucket of water, you can't water three plants because all of them would die
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
try to water three. So yes, you're exactly right.
There's another
So
saying that says a man who chases two rabbits catches none.
right, that would be certainly true. So how has being grounded, how has being in a coaching system that helps you to be grounded, how has that worked for you when overwhelm come? How's that help you?
Wow. Well, listen, I'm a big meditator. I meditate a lot, and I think really keeping myself grounded through meditation, keeping my stress level down, staying organized. Having a to-do list, having goals, and really revisiting your goals. But I think really is just staying focused. And I think we all have 24 hours in a day, right? And it's really about time management,
Mhm.
getting up early, making sure you have a routine, making sure you have a regimen that's going to allow you to have the most productive 24 hours. I might say 24 hours. We're not going to work for 24 hours, but have the most productive, let's say 12 hours of your life. And a lot of that starts with your what is your routine? For me, and I share this with you and I'll share it with everybody. I have three things that I do every day that is just, there's no compromise. When I start my day off with prayer, meditation, and
Mm.
exercise.
Yeah.
Those are my top three: prayer, meditation, and exercise, however you want to do it. And if you're not praying, meditate, you know. But exercise and nutrition obviously go hand in hand. But those are the three things how I start my day. And I've been doing that for the longest time. I can't even tell you how long I've been doing it, but it's just given me this, consistent results, has given me the opportunity to really approach my day in a way where I'm not, overstimulated by, things, how busy that day is going to be, or how things that are coming at me from different directions. I'm able to handle them because I'm more I'm more at peace in my head, in my mind.
Right.
So that's given me the opportunity to really approach life in a very strategic way where I'm not stressing out.
Hey, let me ask you this then. What's the most valuable tool or strategy, maybe even that you picked up doing the coaching? What's something that's helped you the most? A tool or
A
strategy?
tool that has helped me the most, man, there's so many. Um, but really the one that's helped me the most, and that is probably Jerry, there's some good ones, man. You've really given me a lot of tools, but if I was to say the one thing is focus on what I want.
I was getting ready to tell you that's what it was because I see you use it a lot.
Focus on what I want. And
That's
Jerry, can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I know that a lot of people like focus on what you want. Of course, we focus on what you want. No,
right.
focus
Yeah.
on what you
Well, yeah,
want.
and we sometimes even think we're doing it, and actually we're focusing on what we don't want. Because so much of what we focus on is unconscious. Is part
Yes.
of the problem. We're on one minute we're talking about we're going to earn $1 million this year, and then the next few minutes we're thinking about, man, I don't know how I'm going to pay these bills. Well, what are you focusing on? Making $1 million or paying the bills? That's when it gets kind of slippy, or even slipperier or more deceptive is when we say, I don't want to be broke. Well, what are you
Mm,
focusing on? I understand the goal is to have money, but what you're really focusing on is being broke. So there's so many ways that we can focus on what we don't want. Just everyday worries can take us away.
Yes.
We don't know when we get back to reality. you know,
Yes.
we don't know when we get back, because sometimes we can be down and out for a week because something went bad,
Yeah.
something didn't happen, and your focus is just totally on what you don't want. I like what one of my mentors says, Carlos. He says when he catches himself focusing on what he doesn't want, he says to himself, out of all the things in the universe I could be focused on right now, why am I focused on something I don't even want? And that's how he, does it and kind to himself, make a joke
Yeah.
out of it. Because it doesn't make sense. But no, I figured that would be the tool for many people and for you. In fact, my mentor says that's the key to success. If there was one key to success, if you could just control your focus on what you want, the rest would be history. You'd be where you want to be. So I
Yeah.
only have two more questions for you. It's on the fence about coaching. Maybe they're successful, but they feel stuck even, because stuck is stuck, right? What would
Listen, first of all, I think coaching is something that everyone needs. Coaching. At one point I was, probably like the majority of people, is it worth the money? I mean, am I going to have to pay X to get coaching? I mean, I could probably read some books and get through this on my own, but there's nothing like a live coach, especially you, Jerry. And I have to say this, I know you for many, over 30 years, and you're compassionate, you're empathetic, you have this style about you that really allows me to really open up. There's no judging. I be as transparent as I want to with you, and I've seen a lot of gains in a lot of areas in my life besides just the business part of it. I mean, this is really transpired into my personal life, right? Professional life. And I think that anybody out there that's kind of like maybe stuck, they're not seeing any gains. They're just seeing themselves kind of plateauing at a certain income, or they're not really seeing their goals really coming to fruition. I would highly suggest to work with you first of all, but definitely
get a coach?
because really that's you allow them, or help them, I should say, to open up those boundaries, or those limiting beliefs, or those areas that maybe they weren't thinking about, that was holding them back from really achieving the ultimate goal of becoming the person that they're meant to be.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. You say everybody needs a coach, and some people think coaches don't need a coach. I was just coached yesterday. I'm in a 6-week coaching program here, and I'll be in a 3-month after that, because it is the fastest way to grow. You can get to places, but how fast do you want to get there?
Yes.
Yeah, it's key for me. And I want to say one last thing, and then I'm gonna let you close. Is you paid me one of the highest compliments when you reached out to me and said, Jerry, I was praying and God led me to say to have you coach me. That was so special, because most people that know you up close, they never value what you do. Like cutting hair. You come out of the hair industry, and my mother was my worst client. My brothers and sisters were some of my worst clients. They were like, you don't know what you're doing. Okay. People that know you're close. So that was an incredible compliment to me. And I really appreciate and value the opportunity, along with the fact that you're so well studied in this area, that it's you, like I say, you've identified to me that you are the people I like best working with, because you got the knowledge already there. The knowledge is there, and what we do is application. That's my whole thing, is how do we actually apply this and get a result? Like everybody knows you got to get rid of limiting beliefs, but how do you actually do that? Mm-hmm. Everybody knows you've got to visualize, but how do you actually do that? So I appreciate that. I want to end by just finding out what's next for Carlos. Where what's next in your life? Let everybody.
Jerry, look, I what's next for Carlos, and it's just to continue to evolve. Continue to evolve. I see all of these like beautiful things that are kind of already transpiring from the time that I've been working with you, and that's also allowed me to expand my goals, even reach a little bit further. It's funny. I shared this with you last time. I said, it takes about the same amount of energy to achieve a small goal than it is to achieve a big goal. So why not go for it? Right?
Mhm.
Why not go for the big goals? Most people, they think too small. They think too small. And I've given you some numbers, and I've given you some projections that are like, whoa. But that's how I believe. And you have to believe that, because if I'm not believing that, who else is going to believe it, right? I mean, I'm the one that's to really believe in me and what I can accomplish. But really, I think that's the most important thing, is really having that belief.
And we're on the same. I'm listening to a series right now called "Don't God Think Bigger,"
Yes.
and it reminds me of, like what you said. It's all about evolving. No matter how good you're doing, one of the secrets is you can always do better, and
Yes.
always should do better. That's how the world is made. But one thing I'm always reminded of, and we talked about it last week, when you came into coaching and we did our hypnotherapy and we set some goals up, you had some big goals even then. They've gotten bigger, but you had some pretty big goals then. I say big because I don't think you or I had any idea how you were going to meet those goals. But like one of my mentors says, God will fill any bag you give him. Bring him a small bag, he'll fill that. Bring him a big bag, he's not impressed. He'll fill that. And as you set those big goals, now you have two companies. And from some of what you shared with me today, even in your job, even your original job, you have ways to exceed the goals you've set maybe tenfold. And we didn't see that. I don't think you knew. How would we do this? We don't need to know how. We just need to set the goal, get rid of the limiting beliefs, stay focused, and persist. And I can say honestly, you've done that. And not only have you done that, your energy is revved up every month. It's just gotten higher and higher. To when we talk, I get energized. So hey, I want to thank you for a powerful conversation today. You're a gifted orator as well. And so I want to thank you for that. And hey, I'll see you set an appointment for this week for our coaching call, and I'll see you then.
Love it, Jerry. Thank you for being a great mentor and a great friend, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you.
Awesome.